Welcome, everybody, to Bookends podcast number 4, a very, very special Bookends podcast. My name is Rob.
I'm Rose.
And we are now going to spend all of the pod reviewing and discussing The Secret History by...
Donna Tartt.
Pardon.
It's the last time.
The last time. So, we won't be doing a general discussion today because I feel like when we review a book, it'll definitely warrant us talking about solely the book. Mm-hmm. But if you want to stay tuned till the end of the book, we reveal what we'll be reading from next week onwards. So very exciting times. So the way we're going to do it, Rose, you've come up with a brilliant review system. Please tell the audience.
Okay, so we've agreed that we would be rating 5 things for every book that we read. And then our rating is going to be out of 5, but we're going to do it out of 5 cups of coffee. And that will kind of represent how much we enjoyed the book, I guess. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Because coffee is life, isn't it?
Agreed. Yeah. So the 5 things that we're going to be reviewing for each book is its plot, the writing style, chapter length, engagement, and overall excitement factor for us.
Yeah, and we'll have to agree between us the rating at the end of it.
Yes, interesting. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
So, if you remember where we got to last time, Bunny had been killed.
Yep.
Had we realised how he'd been killed yet? Had we got there? I think so.
Yes.
He was pushed off a cliff. We don't know who pushed him. And then, as we predicted, Rose, the rest of the book was all about their downfall and how they cope with the fact that they've killed somebody, and the investigation from the police, and general guilt of most of the players in this game.
Yeah, you called that really well. No, I think that was your prediction. I thought Julian was going to come into it a bit more, but obviously I was wrong.
Well, I want to talk about Julian in a bit.
Good.
We'll finish off. We'll explore the plot for everybody then.
Yeah.
So obviously Bunny's dead. The police are investigating. Henry's coming up with all these genius schemes on how to just totally devoid himself of all responsibility. They get more and more guilty. Is it Charles in particular that loses the plot?
Yeah, Charles starts, well, I guess in essence becomes alcoholic, doesn't he? He just drinks the whole time to get through it.
Yeah.
So I think all of them react differently. I think, and Henry seems to be the only one that sort of keeps quite a worryingly calm head, I would say, throughout. Yeah, he's
cold-blooded.
A bit psychopathic, I think. He's got sort of no emotion really with it.
Yeah.
And then we have Bunny's funeral as well, which obviously all the friends go to.
Yeah.
And I think Henry's actually staying with Bunny's family for that, isn't he?
Parents are a bit crazy.
Yeah. So there's quite a big bit where they're all staying at Bunny's family's house because they get invited there before the funeral. So that's quite uneasy, obviously, because they're all feeling guilty for knowing that they've killed Bunny and now they're there supporting me.
Most of them are feeling guilty.
Most people, apart from Henry, yeah. I think, and I guess it kind of all wraps up quite quickly towards the end, doesn't it? To summarise everything. I don't know if you want to run through what happened.
Well, they're all feeling guilty. They're all not trusting each other. Our man in the middle, he's trying to get everyone together, but no one trusts anyone. And then Julian finally comes into it by default. So Julian receives a letter in the post, I believe, from dun 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 Bunny from the grave. So Bunny has wrote Julian a letter discussing his suspicions about what happened. And does he actually say they murdered someone in the letter, Rose?
Yeah, I think he's sort of expressing his concern and his fear for his own life, doesn't he? I think he's getting the vibe that something's going to happen to him.
And then Julian thinks it's someone else writing it. He sounds like a madman writing it. Richard and Francis are reading it together, and then they see the what's it called?
It's like the header, isn't it?
The header.
The letter header, yeah.
Header of the hotel where Henry took Bunny in Italy,
yeah.
Italy, which means it could only have been written by Henry or Bunny. That would then prove their guilt, but Julian hasn't yet seen that side of it. So they're trying to scramble to get the things off Julian without him noticing, the papers. Then Julian leads them outside or something to talk. Julian's got no idea. Next thing you know, they're trying to get hold of Henry, but Henry's now with Julian in a secret room or whatever they're doing. And Henry is looking at these papers but hasn't realised that the header is from the hotel on there yet. So our man Richard is there saying, Henry, I need to talk to you on your own. Henry's like, I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone, because he's distanced himself. And then quickly, Richard glances down to show Henry, look in your hand. There's the paper. And then Henry tries to like flip it. And then all of a sudden, Julian looks down, sees the paper, and all the secret history is revealed before our eyes, and all the guilt has come out.
Yeah, and obviously Julian sees it. He realizes, doesn't he, what's happened? And I think he just then vanishes. Julian leaves, doesn't he? He doesn't sort of contact the police or anything.
Julian gives the papers back to the kids and says, I think you better have this.
Yeah.
And then just absolutely does a runner. So before we talk about what happens after that, what are your thoughts on Julian in this whole scenario, Rose?
Just in this scenario, not overall.
Oh no, overall.
If I'm honest, I felt a bit disappointed in his character, because I think there was a real build up as to his involvement in it, him being this real like, I don't even know the word, but how they describe him to be like really imperative to the story, and he really isn't. Like, I don't really know why he was built up to that at all, because that was a real letdown. He didn't match the description that we get at the beginning. He's not really in it that much. I feel like it could have been any teacher and it wouldn't have any bearing on the book. And him just disappearing, I also didn't quite add up to me, considering he's very much, when he talks, it's all about, you know, like morals and life, and he seems to be quite a wholesome, trustworthy person that, you know, that I thought was going to be a lot more I don't know how to word it, but I was let down, and I think when he just disappeared, it was a bit of a...
You thought he'd be more integral to the story, really?
Yeah, that's the word, integral. I thought he would be, but it wasn't.
The way one of the kids described Julian was that he's the sort of person that would have his favourite chocolates from a assortment box and give the chocolates back, which basically means he takes what he wants and all the good stuff, but any of the shitty stuff, like the fact that his pupils have murdered someone, he just doesn't want to know and just leaves.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it just shows that Julian was an absolute coward and didn't support the kids at all. And I don't, like you said, I don't know why he was made to be such a big person in the book when he wasn't really. I guess he was just a chess piece to get the kids all together talking, but they could have chose something else than a special classroom with Julian. I don't know. I wonder what the author would say about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Donna Tartt, if you're listening, feel free.
Pardon?
Feel free to let us know.
Yeah.
But I think in that sense, Julian and the topic of Greek and the special club itself didn't really have any bearing. I thought there would be more of an explanation as to why he'd chosen those 5, why it was such a specific, unique class, and none of that really came to a head. I just thought that what was the importance of that, because they could have been 5 friends in any university class. It didn't make... I wasn't quite sure why that was important.
I wonder if you were doing like an English class study on it, there'd be themes of like the themes of the stuff they spoke about, and then obviously the fact they've killed people and the discussion on morality and all that. Maybe there'd be some themes there to link it. But yeah.
But why does it need to just be those 5 in the class? Like, there could have been 100 in the class, but those 5 were friends. Like, it didn't have any...
He was just a coward in the end, Julian. And
I
don't like...
Or why he picked those 5. I think they were just trust fund like students. There wasn't anything until they killed somebody. There wasn't anything like you said about he picks the best chocolates and stuff. Why those 5? Like, I couldn't find anything in the book that would single them out as being...
I mean, maybe Donna Tartt's trying to say that Julian built these kids up and made them feel special, and then sort of was a catalyst to their murder, to murdering people. I don't know. Maybe he was behind it in some sort of way, not on purpose, but the way he taught maybe led them to this evil way. I don't know. It's interesting.
Made them think they were capable of it, I guess.
Yeah.
It definitely made Henry feel like very superior to others, didn't he? Because he was... Yeah,
but I definitely didn't. The way they described Julian throughout the book, and then at the end when he left, I definitely don't like the character of Julian.
No. Should we finish what happened and then?
Yes, Rose. Do you want to do that?
I thought you were going to do that.
I'll really whatever you choose.
No, it's fine. Okay, so Julian leaves, and then I guess they're again led by Henry's the one that they're most concerned about, aren't they? So Charles has sort of gone off the rails by this point and is drinking all the time. Henry and Camilla are now sleeping together and seem to have a relationship that we weren't aware of, and that's kind of come out of nowhere.
Bit of incest for you. Lovely.
Well, no, because this is Henry. So I was just going to say what transpires via Camilla and Henry is that you find out that Camilla had also been sleeping with Charles, her brother. Yeah. So then there's a weird incestual brief storyline that we learn about.
Donna, what's that about, man? Why are you bringing that into it? You know,
yeah, but weird. Charles is also physically abusive towards Camilla, isn't he? Which is why she then goes to Henry, because she feels that Henry's the only one that Charles is scared of. And he is, because I think there is a point in the book towards the end that Richard realizes that Henry had given Charles pills that would have killed him because they're what he was considering giving Bunny earlier in the book.
Yeah. And so also again, Richard loves Camilla as well. Everyone loves Camilla.
They all do. I don't quite get it, but it seems like I think she sort of leads them all on at different points. But so she's then sleeping with Henry. Charles has gone off the rails and is drinking all the time and is trashing his flat. And it's almost just Richard and Francis that we're left with, I guess, a realistic.
And Francis is gay and has tried it on with Richard and also slept with
Charles.
Yeah. So it all goes on towards the end, really.
I guess, and then it all comes to a head when they are they're in a hotel room, aren't they? Because Charles goes missing, and I think they worry that Charles is going to kill himself or do something reckless because he's taken the car and he's drunk, and it's all a concern. But then he turns up at this hotel room where Henry is with Camilla, and I think when they turn up, Charles turns up there with a gun, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then is threatening to kill Henry.
Yeah.
Henry then whispers something to Camilla, and in this whole...
Hang on, who's got the gun at the moment?
Charles has the gun initially, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then Henry, I think there's some scuffle, and Henry ends up with a gun.
Yeah.
And he shoots, but it's Richard that gets shot in the stomach initially.
Yeah, and no one seems to care, do they?
And no one seems to care that he's bleeding out whilst this is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then it's all quite tense. They're all shouting and no one knows what's happening. And then Henry whispers something to Camilla.
Obviously, so hang on, aren't some people knocking the door? They're about to come in the room, aren't they? Who are they?
I was going to say, so when Henry shoots Richard, that obviously people think there's something wrong and they respond to the hotel and they're trying to get in. I can't remember. It's not the police, is it? Is it just other visitors in the hotel? I think, isn't it, like staff?
I think so.
That are trying to get in. Henry then whispers something to Camilla that you don't know, and then she just shouts Henry no, and Henry then shoots himself in the head. So
it looks like Henry's going to shoot the people that come in the door, but he doesn't. Test it on his head. Boom, 2 shots.
Yeah. So then and then after that, so obviously Henry kills himself. And then it kind of just goes back to Richard, doesn't it? When he's looking back on it, Richard's in hospital.
Yeah.
I think Charles ends up being with he moves away to live with some woman that is awful by the sounds of it. Camilla, he sees and proposes to Camilla at one point, and she rejects him, and then she also leaves. Francis, I also think Francis writes to Richard with it's almost like a suicide letter, isn't it? That he's saying that he's going to end his life, and then he's in hospital after cutting his wrists. So it's actually not a very nice ending.
Not a very pleasant ending, isn't it? Yeah.
No, but I thought, part of me thought it was quite a realistic, particularly Francis and Richard, their reactions and response was quite realistic, and even Charles to an extent.
Yeah.
Henry's I didn't like, Camilla's I didn't like. I don't know about you, but it's a 600-page book. And for me, I felt like the 3 main things that happened all happened very quickly within a few pages. And then
it could have been a 400-page book, I'd say. So I'm thinking, Rose, like, what do you feel the author Donna Tartt was trying to achieve with this book? What is she trying to talk about, like the depths people go to cover themselves, or what do you think the point of the book was? It's a hard question. I don't think I've got an answer myself.
I'm not really sure, because it's so much that goes on in it, isn't it? I think we said that on another pod, that it's almost like nothing really happens from one page to the next, but a lot happens in its entirety. So it's quite a full book, isn't it? It's quite heavy. I don't know if it's just about but I don't know, about human nature, or like our response to stuff, or whether it's about morality, or I I don't know, but I mean, I still find it odd that what led to the murder was still a relatively minor issue. Like it wasn't. I felt like there needed to be something bigger to warrant the murder, and then perhaps the book would have made more sense. But it just seemed like an irritability, and then boom, Bunny's dead, and then Charles was getting irritating, and again Henry's contemplating trying to bump him off as well. It's just quite. They didn't really explain Henry very well.
I definitely started feeling sorry for Bunny even more when he met his parents and stuff. I thought he was annoying, but like really, he didn't deserve all of that crap.
No.
And like if they'd just took their punishment, they might have only got a few years. Whereas it's like a lifetime sentence for all of them. Really, Henry's killed himself. You know, they're all feeling guilty. Their lives will never be the same. So was it all worth it? Probably not.
I don't think so. And even you got to think with Julian, he obviously left, and he'd been at, how long had he been at that university where he was teaching for free and everything, and he's now, that's ruined.
It was also like poisonous at the end, wasn't it? It was all not good. So yeah, interesting. Okay, let's talk about our 4 or 5 categories for the review.
Our 5 things that we're rating on. So our first one is the plot, which I guess we have kind of been discussing already.
I like the plot. It went on probably too long, but then they could argue that's to set all the scene and everything. But I did generally like it. How about you?
Yeah, no, I did. I'd agree. I don't think it didn't ever feel rudderless at any point. Like there was always something.
What's
I heard
that
mean? This week. I like this word.
Explain to the listeners.
Rudderless. It's just like there was always a point. It always going in a direction. It wasn't ever just like there wasn't sections of the book where you were just. Well, it was rudderless, and then it was like you're just floating with no direction.
Nice.
There was always something that I felt like every scene was important to the book.
That's good. I like it.
I might use that in future pods.
I heard a good word today. Tantamount.
Tantamount.
Really
what does
good.
that mean? Relevant to this?
Yeah, it means like. I'm going to Google it. I know it's hard to explain. So, okay, what are we saying then about the overall plot out of 5? What sort of stars then? What? Sorry, not for stars.
Cups of coffee. Oh, we're going to rate each one out. Okay.
Oh.
I think just do an overall rating.
Okay, fair.
That might be
tantamount. Equivalent in seriousness to, or virtually the same as. The resignations were tantamount to an admission of guilt.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
So I guess in this we were saying their reactions weren't tantamount.
Oh,
Check us out. Look at that.
Okay, next point.
Okay, so plot we've discussed at length, I think.
Yeah.
Writing style. I think we've both complimented the writing style from the beginning, haven't we?
I feel like she used some very big words, but she set the scene, set the tone.
Yeah.
Places very, very well. I liked it.
Yeah. I think there were times when it was a little bit, especially with all the Greek things, that perhaps bits were unnecessary, but again, perhaps for the more educated folk that might have been necessary and had some more bearing on the plot that we weren't aware of.
Yeah.
And it's a nice writing style. It was quite heavy initially, but I think once we got used to it, we actually really enjoyed it, didn't we?
I don't know about you, Rose, but like with all the books I've read, there seemed to be just like wordy and big words, just kind of for the sake of it. But this wasn't like that. It was just written really beautifully. I think she's got a good vocabulary, but she doesn't overuse or use silly big words for the sake of it.
Really, I think it set the tone for the book, which was nice.
Yeah.
Our third one, chapter length. For me personally, I found the chapter was too long.
Is that one of my categories? Chapter length.
Yeah, because it's a
rubbish
important thing for us. No, it's not. I put it in because I find it's really important when I read a book.
Okay, fine.
I'm keeping it because for me, when I read a book, and I've said it before, I don't like putting a book down mid-chapter. I have to. I like to finish it, and with Secret History, I couldn't do that. I was always putting it down like at the end of a paragraph, and I didn't enjoy that.
Chapter length was probably the hardest in a book I've ever gone through before. It was too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could have helped being shorter chapters and just broke it up. Not broke up the story, but just as a reader. Yeah, it would just break the book up a little bit and make it a bit more accessible for me personally.
And I bet a lot of readers are like that. They have to kind of finish the chapter or and it's just when you like on the Kindle it tells you how long you've got left in the chapter and it's like 1 hour 30. I was like, gee, that's just too much. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Good
So I
point.
think
Okay.
it did detract from the enjoyment a little bit.
It definitely
because
warrants a
of that.
category, I think, actually. I'll take it back. That's good. That's definitely
Thanks.
tantamount to the review process.
Our fourth is engagement.
Ooh,
I would
explain.
so this is just how much the book engages us, I guess, quite simply. And I would say for me it's been quite high. I didn't ever feel that I was bored of it or that I was sort of distracted or feeling myself thinking about other stuff while I'm reading it. I was definitely engaged in it the whole time. It was very quite captivating as we were reading it.
I agree. What if we were to explain, if we were to recommend this book to anyone, and say an alien or a well-read alien,
Yeah.
and we have to say, right, if you want to read this book, you have to ... What would we say? Would we say there's a slow build-up, but stick with it? Would we say it's very character-driven? How would we describe it?
I'll definitely say stick with it, because I think I can't remember now because it was a while ago since we started. I can't remember how long it took to properly get into it, but it's possibly that night when Bunny and Richard get drunk, isn't it? That's sort of when it picked up for us. Definitely say stick with it, and also not to be put off by the size of the book, because I know you didn't realise the size until I showed you, because obviously you had it on the Kindle. And maybe not to read too much about it as well. I think I've really enjoyed it because I didn't know what it was about.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a murder mystery as such, but it's definitely there's murder in it, and it's dark, and it's a bit of a thriller.
But I feel like if I'd read a lot about it and it sort of said there's themes of suicide, incest, mental health, I wouldn't have bothered to pick it up. Whereas actually they're very, although there are themes of that, they're not until the last. Do you know what I mean? It's all part of it, and it actually works really well.
And again, if they said there's a murder mystery, it wouldn't have intrigued me. So I'm glad. It's another good reason not to read all the blurb or reviews. It was like it was like something was up early on, something wasn't quite right, and it just got deeper and deeper, and it turned into a murder thing. So so I'd say stick with it, give it a good old, at least read a third of the book before you put it down, for sure.
I don't think people would. I think if they got a third of the way through, they'd stick with it, unless they've read this and know what it's all about.
was that category engagement, was it?
I'd
say it was engaging.
Okay, so the fifth is this was your contribution, Rob, so you can explain. So this is excitement factor. So what?
So like how much do you when you're at work, slaving away for the man or woman, how much you think, I want to get back into that world? How much are you thinking about the characters, thinking, oh man, I wish I was with Bunny and the gang right now, and in the evening when you want to go to bed and you get your book out, how excited are you to flip it open and read it? Again, that's quite, well, not subjective, is it? But that's, part of the book I was like, oh, and then like Bunny's funeral, I was like, oh, this is boring me. But then towards the end, I loved it. So I guess it comes in waves, doesn't it? The excitement factor.
It was quite an exciting book. I think why I found it exciting is because we didn't know what was happening. So I quite enjoyed what was exciting for me is trying to guess what's going to happen, or what was going to happen with each character. And I think the one who I thought the most about was Henry, but it wasn't in a positive way. He just really annoyed me.
No, I think it built up, didn't it? So the excitement built up as you learned more. You know what I'm worried about, because we're not reading the blurbs. This is on a bit of a side step, because we're not reading the blurbs and that. What if one of the books we read, say like this one, what if it all turns out to be aliens? Because I'll be pissed off. Have you ever seen the film Cloverfield something? Cloverfield Lane?
No.
Brilliant. Amazing. Spoilers. Amazing film. And at the very end, it turns out to be aliens. And it just ruins it. So I'm worried that some books might end up like that.
They definitely are. But then that's what you're going to have a good review for it, because it's something that's frustrated you, and it's you've got to take the rough. You've got to take the bad to appreciate the good.
Controversial opinion, but it's a cop-out, aliens. It's a cop-out all the time.
It is. And for me, it's on par with It Was All a Dream. Or, just...
Oh, but yeah.
Or just not having any ending, and just you think, oh, what's going to happen? And then it's just credits. That's probably worse.
And then the authors will say, well, it's up to you to decide, which I do get.
I get that, but you've written it, so give me the ending. So I've wasted a lot of time reading this. Well, not wasted, but I spent a lot of time reading it, so I want an ending.
We both need to agree on a score, but I don't want to be the first one to say what I think my score would be. So how are we going to do this? So just put...
Well, I think if we do a brief, because I think we've got a little bit of time, just pros and cons of the book to kind of help
your
our
cheeky
rating.
Rose, cheeky throwing that one at me. I like it.
I'm thinking, well, we kind of discussed a lot of it. So pros for us would be the plot. it was really engaging. The character development was really good.
Character development, absolutely, yeah.
And writing style we liked as
The
well.
feeling of unease as the book went on, I like that.
Yeah. So I think we've got a lot of pros. However, on our con side at the minute, we've got chapter length.
Yep.
Not quite really understanding the Virgilian's involvement and the why
Greek,
that class thing was
the
a
Greek
whole
stuff.
issue. Yeah.
We felt the book could have been smaller and still got the point across.
Yeah. But I guess I always think with a rating that helps me try and think of, would you recommend it to somebody else?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Would
yeah,
you?
see, I would as well.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think, for me at the minute, I would just say I'm sort of about a 4.
See,
four
I'm
and a
going to
half.
be very critical about most books. I don't think I'll ever score as high as I will today. I would say a 4 out of 5.
Yeah. I don't think I'd give it a 5 because I think there were some of the things about it are enough to knock a star for me.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think the sad thing about it, or the good thing is, like, you don't know what's going to happen at the end, and you know something's going to happen at the end, and it kind of it doesn't fall flat, but it's not a big bang, a big amazing thing that happens, is it? I mean, yeah, Henry shoots himself in the head. It's not nice, but like, I expected something really amazing to happen at the end, and it didn't. But it wasn't also a damp.
No, it wasn't a bad ending, but I think I ended it with a lot of questions.
Yeah.
In my, like, I was hoping to get a bit of closure from it and understand a bit more of why things happened the way they did.
Yeah, but it took us on a ride, and I enjoyed the ride. So,
yeah, and actually, something I thought that I've not mentioned, all through the book, there's quite a heavy theme of sort of drug and alcohol, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the book has that sort of haze to it. Like they're either stoned or drunk, or the whole book is quite a.
Yeah.
It's an odd experience, but one that I did enjoy it. But I think so. A confident 4.
I think confident 4, and I've got a sneaking suspicion that the next several books you read aren't going to reach the heights of 4.
No, but it's good. I think it's really good. I think it's helpful to start on a really good one.
But see, if you're thinking 3 is average, it's far above average. 5 would be absolutely incredible, but 4 is fair.
Yeah, I think 4 is good, and I think it's helpful to have a book. An initial book that we've both really enjoyed to then give us the motivation to do another one, because I think if we'd started on one that we both hated, we'd probably be questioning whether we want to do this. But
it'll be a while before we go back to a 600-page book, though, won't it?
Yes. yeah.
But
no, it's important to have it. I think it's
Donna
important
Tartt, you did a fantastic job, and I can see why you get so much praise for that book.
But interestingly enough, so much praise, but one that like we've said, I just didn't hear of it. So
no.
I quite like that.
But she took us on a ride, good characters, that unsettling feeling. It did a job on us. So yes, thank you, Miss Tartt.
So I guess it takes us nicely onto our next book choice.
Absolutely, and this was your pick, Rose.
Well, I'm going to say it's semi my pick. So I selected a few that you narrowed down.
Yeah, and I went. Total full disclosure, I went based on the title of the book and the cover, which you should never judge a book by its cover, but that's all I had to go with.
Yeah, so neither of us really know much about the book. I know that it's quite well read at the minute. It's on social media a lot, which I think for me at the minute is a bit of a good and a bad thing.
So drum roll then.
So I'll do
also,
drum roll.
Have you got the book to hand? Because the author's name's quite long.
I'm not going to pronounce the author's name.
Oh God, I'll get it up.
You can. I've got it, but I don't know how you pronounce the name. I don't want to offend him.
Keep talking. I'm going to Google.
I've got it here. It's fine. I can try to pronounce it.
Okay, so our next book after the drum roll.
Are you ready?
I think we'll be able to review it in 2 pods, personally.
Yeah.
So our next book is
Before the Coffee Gets Cold by. Go on, Rob.
Oh, me? Oh.
you researched it.
Toshikazu Kawaguchi. We're excited to read this one. It's a bit of a smaller book, which is good. And we'll let you know our thoughts in the next pod. Stay tuned. And next pod, we'll do a general discussion about something book related as well. And check out our social media soon, because we're going to change it up a little bit, I believe.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. Okay. Thank you for everyone for listening for our first ever full book review. We did it, Rose.
We did.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.